The theme of the double is and was often used in English literature. We found many examples along the way, and that's what I want to discuss here today. As early as the beginning of the 19th century, we can find the references to this element. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was very successful among the people, but not as much for the critics, who despised the novel. Nonetheless, the book aged well, and is still very popular today. In the story, there are two main dualisms. One is represented by Capitan Walton and Victor Frankenstein, because both of them are overreachers, and the former wants to reach the North Pole to unveil the mystery behind the fact that compasses point north, while the latter wants to create life and substitute himself to God. So, on the one hand, we have the modern Prometheus, as the subtitle of the novel suggests, and an explorer that wants to go over his limits, while on the other there are Victor Frankenstein and the creature itself. There's this element in both extracts that we studied. In the first one, we can see how Victor refuses contact with the ugly creature, while in the second, we can see that the heroic actions of the creature are misinterpreted, and so the creature gets shot. We can say that Mary Shelley anticipated the theme in analysis, because it's more representative of the second half of the Victorian Age, which is around 70 years later. Indeed, this period was characterized by contradiction and duplicity even at the root of the society, because higher classes made a sort of compromise with themselves and the poorer classes. They developed a just and moral public face, while hid their vices and secret passions away. This duplicity, called also Victorian Compromise, was a way to cope for the feeling of being the cause of the poor's poverty. Having a strict moral code and doing charity made them feel generous. Indeed, while the Victorian Age was a period of stability and progress, the condition of the lower classes got even worse, at least in the first half of the Victorian Age. On top of that, the mentality which brought up workhouses, which believed that poverty was a consequence of laziness, was still alive and very popular among the higher classes. Good examples of the Victorian Compromise are The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Stevenson conveys very well this concept because his protagonist, Dr. Jekyll, as we find out in his letter of confession, is well aware of this duplicity in human nature. He even predicts that man is more than double, just like in Freud's theories. Jekyll sees all the problems that this duplicity brings, and so decides to find out how to separate them for the good of both. The plan is a failure, because over time he loses control over the evil part, Mr. Hyde, and so in the end he kills himself. Dorian Gray is somewhat similar to Jekyll, because he also separates himself in two parts. The portrait is hidden away in his house and bears all the signs of age and vices, whereas he never gets old. The contrast between private vices and moral public face is embodied by Dorian and his painting. Just like Jekyll, Dorian dies in the end. The message shared by the two novels is that it is impossible to separate and suppress only one part of human nature. Man has to live with both and keep a balance between instincts and rational morality. The concept of duplicity as part of human nature and the need to keep balance returns in Joseph Conrad's works. Duplicity was part of his life because he had two nationalities, spoke two languages and had two jobs, sailor and writer. He called himself Homo Duplex. Yes, indeed, in fact, he was well aware of that, and his novels, such as After Earth of Darkness, are built upon dualisms. Marlowe, the protagonist, is the part that remains attached to the rules of the society, whereas Kurtz, the company's agent, represents the double of Marlowe and of every human being that didn't manage to resist to the temptations of instincts and so became worse than the savages he was exterminating for civilizing purposes. In fact, the ideals of the civilizing mission of the white man are destroyed by the postscriptum of the report he wrote, which says, "Exterminate all the brutes." In conclusion, the theme of the double is often found in English literature, and developed Through time, as a society and culture changed,